afternoon and welcome everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio and of course Warchant TV. Hope you guys had a great, Merry Christmas and wonderful time with your friends and family. Let's hope that was the case. If not Christmas, whatever it is you celebrate, of course, the same to all of you. And I can tell you that it is good to be back on the air with my brother Tom Lang. We are broadcasting here today in Tallahassee a little earlier than normal. So this is recorded. Let's get that out of the way right off the bat. But it is recorded same day and just a couple of hours before we ordinarily go on. Had to do it because we're going to be making our way to Orlando to cover Florida State and Oklahoma for the bowl game, obviously. Looking forward to it. And on that note, let's do it right out the top here, out the gates. We will be joined by our friends at the Battle's End for a block party. Let's start in order of operation. Warchant.com and the Jeff Cameron Show live from the Hairy Buffalo tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. That's Wednesday if you're listening to this at a later date. 1 to 3 p.m. live at the Hairy Buffalo. That is 129 Church Street. You guys can see that if you're watching the video, but if you're driving about and on the verge of leaving town to head to Orlando, that's the locale. 129 West Church Street. Probably best just to do what everybody does now. Type in Hairy Buffalo Orlando into your phone. Boom, pops up. Follow the trail of gold to the Jeff Cameron Show at Hairy Buffalo. And then note that, again, our friends at the Battle's End are hosting a block party. Right after we get off the air, we'll have a meet and greet for anybody that's there. Just sort of a, hey, good to see you in Orlando, everybody. Thank you for supporting what we do. Let's have a beer together. Let's talk about what a splendid season this has been. Florida State's 9-3 on the cusp of going 10-3, and some details about how they continue to bolster their roster forthcoming. So we'll do that, and then that will bleed right into that free block party that the Battle's End is hosting, and we are joined with them. It should be a good time. Live music all throughout the rest of the evening. It's 4 to like really late, 12 a.m., 1 a.m., whatever that might be. You'll hear Cole Taylor. You'll hear Tyler Reeve, and the headliner being Jake Owens. So if that's your cup of tea, and even if it's not, I would think it's a good time at the Hairy Buffalo as you are gathered together with Seminole faithful in celebration of turning the corner. And I'll remind you throughout today's show, again, location, times, all that good stuff, but wanted to get that done here at the top just to let you know so that you could make plans accordingly. All right, so it's been a busy time. We've had a few days off. That has been nice. Really anymore, as we've discussed before, with the transfer portal, with early signing day becoming the most important of the signing days, with practices leading up to a bowl game, additions to the roster, there is no real day off. You get some days away from the on-air broadcast, but obviously we were continuing to keep our focus on what Florida State's doing, and they did something big again. And Tom, I'll bring you in here because I think it's important to note not just the player, but Florida State is becoming now villainous amongst rival teams. And I enjoy this. I've wanted us to put the black hat back on for some time because it's always an indicator that things are going well. I'll bring that up here in a second. First of all, Merry Christmas, brother. Good to see you again, and hope you're well. Hope you had a good one.
Hey, man, I did. Merry Christmas to you. There was a lot of good football, a lot of bad football, but victorious football for our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As that was
stayed up and watched the whole thing, buddy.
It was forgettable, but you know what? The last 10 minutes were actually fairly exciting. Anyway, just looking forward to being on a short week now for the FSU game because I love watching this team, and I'm going to keep saying that all week long. I love watching this group. I wish they had 4 more games, 5 more games.
I do too.
But this is the last one, and sometimes a bowl game when you don't make a playoff or a New Year's Six bowl, this is like our previous life before we sucked for a long time. Sometimes they're an afterthought. And then there are other ones that are a total celebration, even if you don't reach those plateaus. I recall back in 2010 when we were in the city of Atlanta for the Peach Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Bowl against South Carolina. It had a very similar feel to this week and to this year's bowl season, which is it's nice to be here, and it's nice to be on the way up.
Well, I think to your point, you're announcing your renewed presence.
Yeah.
And I think, that is really the feel. If we were going to discuss Florida State, it's the time of the year where we're certainly reflecting and looking forward both and kind of having a year-end summary as we get set for 2023 and what awaits. I think that is the greatest way to describe it, or the best and most apt way to describe it, and that is that Florida State renewed their presence on the national stage, and that they kind of said, "Hey, we're back. Sorry, we were stumbling around in the dark for years there, guys. I don't know what happened, but that's behind us now. We're going to be moving forward as a competent, fully functioning operation with an opportunity to perhaps kick our way through into the top 10 and become something of significance in the 2023 season." I think that's what this year has been about. It's been a year that was greatly anticipated, one that culminates now in this bowl game that we're talking about, but one that we really entered into with an awful lot of hope, but also apprehension. And if you think back, the hope was both, I think, probably entrenched in a belief in the coaching staff, first and foremost, in Mike Norvell. I think that's where it started. The idea that we saw Mike and we saw the way that he coached, and we saw how hard he coached, and we saw an overriding belief in what he was doing, even in the midst of great adversity, even in the midst of setbacks and losses, including one that is in the annals of worst losses in Florida State history, right? So even amongst all of that, we kind of realized, I think, collectively, at least it was my opinion. I think you shared it. Certainly, we do the show every day together. We get a good idea of where we think, each other's heads are at. But I know it's true for the vast majority of the people that cover this team, whether it's for Warchant or any other outlet. We all interact, we all talk, we all kind of compare notes to varying degrees. We all certainly know each other going back a long ways. And it's always fun to kind of pick others' brains and even have disagreements and go through the process of kind of vetting where you think the program's at, what you think of a coach, a segment group, a potential for a win-loss record in a particular season, all of it. And it seemed to me that collectively most thought, yeah, this is the guy. He's a good coach. But, and there was a big but, ... Admittedly, it's not really about your coaching acumen always. It's not really necessarily about whether or not you seem to have your ducks in a row and you're organized. It's not really about whether or not you've been able to get the team to buy in, whatever mantra you're preaching, whatever core beliefs you have. It's whether or not all of it comes together to equate to victories. At some point, you got to win games. And I felt like coming into this season, this was so much about, there are so many caveats here, and they're not excuses per se. They are reasons as opposed to excuses, but we are kind of running out of ways to describe why it is Mike Norvell and his team haven't won games. And at some point, they were going to have to win games. So we had a belief, but also a real fear that if it didn't happen, that the ship had sailed, Tom. And that was really the concern, that what if you don't get a signature win? What if you don't have a signature season? What if you don't have a moment that galvanizes the base, that galvanizes Florida State? I liken it a little bit to politics in a weird way, and people who know me know I loathe politics. Not a fan of politicians in general. I happen to know a lot of them, unfortunately, but that said, the weirdest thing about it is that you can find a candidate. I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent. You can find a candidate whose core beliefs are similar to yours, whose methodology, the way that they work on a day in, day out basis, the way they interact with people, the way that you believe their beliefs are rooted in something that's real and lasting. You can find that person. It's hard to do. You can find them warts and all and say, I believe in that person. But then you can look at them and say, but they can't win. They can't win. They're not going to win office because of this, and this. Unfortunately, this isn't going to work out, even though I think that's the woman or that's the man. I had that feeling coming into this season with Mike Norvell, like, oh, man, what if it doesn't happen? What if he doesn't have the moment where everybody gets in line, where everybody agrees, where all of a sudden those that were doubting come over to your side? Those that were a little unsure and skeptical decide that they too now believe because they have hardcore evidence of that. And that's what this season had to be about. Thank goodness it turned out to be that, because you can take the weight off your shoulder and set it down now. I don't know that there are too many. There may be people who don't think that long-term Mike Norvell is going to win a national championship. There might be people who have real question marks about his ability and his staff's ability to recruit the high school ranks. It's a fair criticism at this point, to the level you need to win a national championship. There may be people who criticize some of his theatrics or immaturities, those moments that you see on the sideline for a young coach after a big play or a win. That's all well and good. Those are nuanced discussions about what a guy is or is not. But it's not an overreaching conversation about coaching ability, organization, opportunity to win long term. I don't think anybody discounts that Mike Norvell is going to be a winning coach here now. It's just a matter of to what degree. And that was that's what this season was, man.
Yeah, and what I'd say, just to speak frankly about when we hired Mike Norvell, my hope as, an alum and a fan of this program was that at minimum you've got a guy who could set the table, and if that means that somebody else has to push you all in and win the pot, then so be it. But we didn't even have ourselves in position with the end of Jimbo and Willie's brief tenure. We were getting out of position worse and worse and worse. It's almost like running a 100-meter dash and you just fall flat on your face. There they go. And where are we? We're scraped up. Knees are bloodied. Our face is bloodied and scarred. And there they go. They're running the race and we're falling behind. And you have that feeling already, and it's enough. It's too much to bear when it comes to conference payouts and TV revenue. You're falling behind. No matter what you do on the field, you are falling behind. So don't let the actual program itself suck on top of the fact that you're not making any money. That's how you become Nebraska. That's how you become the Cornhuskers, and you're forgotten for the better part of 30 years. That's how you become Miami. And I didn't want any part of that.
No.
So my hope was, at the very least, this hire could be the table setter that allows us to have the discussion of, can he get the job done? Can he finish the job? And we're going to have, at minimum, I think, those discussions at this point. So for me, there's relief. There's just a relief.
Yeah.
I get that, we feel the pride, and I think that's going to kick in even more that Labor Day weekend before we play LSU next year, because that Vegas over-under total, assuming there isn't a massive amount of injuries in, say, spring football or something along those lines, is assuming we're healthy with the roster as they've constructed it, that number's got to be 10 or 10.5, I feel. It's got to be, because the ACC schedule is so weak. So you're going to thump your chest a little bit more then. This week, though, I'm just like, whew, okay. Now we are going to have a discussion in the next 2 or 3 years, I think, about can he finish the job rather than can he do the job.
Yeah, it was important. It was hugely important. And I think in a moment of reflection, this holiday season, we've kind of sat back and really thought about a lot of things, whether it's our finances, our family, where we're headed in our career, whatever it might be. But also you think about your favorite team. You think about your professional teams, your college teams, whatever it might be. If your children play high school or middle school ball or whatever, you think about all these things and assess. And some are more important than others, obviously. But I think if you're listening to this show and you're a passionate sports fan and you love Florida State football, you know that this is high on the list of things that you think about. And I was getting tired of thinking about how we were also Rans and how we were insignificant in the world of college football. It just never felt right. It's always very frustrating. I know that's that pride kicking in as Noles. We all kind of want to bow up and be able to have our place at the table. And at a program like Florida State, if your ducks are in a row and you are organized and you have people who are invested financially, emotionally, and otherwise, then you should win. You should win at the very least. Maybe not to the degree that we all want, which is national championship level expertise, but you should win. You should have a 9-3 type season. You shouldn't do worse than 8-4. If you're organized and invested and operating, as I like to say, anywhere near peak efficiency, you should win. And so to see us stumbling around in the dark like this the last several years, that was just unsettling. And you wondered, God, are we ever going to get it together? So in a nutshell, this season was about that. There's still some warts to clean up, some things we got to do better. It's kind of it's like getting yourself in shape, but you got to clean up your diet a little bit. There's a few things that you could cut out there to get even better. And I think that Florida State's got that now, and we'll debate what those things are. If you're familiar with the exercise world, you know there's not 100% agreement on anything amongst coaches and dietitians and everybody else. That'll be us as Florida State fans talking about what are they going to do here? I think we may agree on one. We may agree that, again, it's not dreadful, but it's not good enough in the state when it comes to recruiting and keeping the 5-star or high 4-star players in the state coming to your university as opposed to Miami or Florida. Not quite there yet. That can improve. And if you're going to be taking steps towards competing for national championships, it has to improve. I think there are a couple of members of the staff that I would replace. We'll see if he agrees. He's got to make that assessment. Self-scouting becomes critical after a season like this. Self-scouting is always important. I think it'll be very important for Mike now as he starts to eye his future. He's a young coach. I think he wants to win championships. I think he thinks of himself and his staff to varying degrees as being that kind of program, that kind of staff that can build to that. This is probably what he's always dreamt of, because let's be realists now. No matter what he would have done at Memphis, you certainly couldn't win a national championship at Memphis. You were never going to get that opportunity. So you coached your ass off at Memphis. You won a bunch of games. You got yourself in a position to be hired by a school like Florida State. Well, you took that job knowing damn well, it was a huge pay raise, but a huge opportunity to win championships. And now we're on the cusp of no longer talking about, hey, can we just get clothed for the day? Can we just put on our shirt? Can we just do the simplest of things? That's all in the rear view now. Now it's about what do we have to do to be great. I don't know that the game itself that we're going to be covering in Orlando on Thursday matters. And I think I am one of the very few people who are aligned with Florida State who think that. And I'll tell you why in a second. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Hi, this is Jamie McClenny from Trek Financial in Tallahassee. Managing downside risk in your portfolio is one of the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement. Trillions of dollars in stimulus from the Federal Reserve and D.C. politicians, combined with zero interest rates, have propped up financial markets since the financial crisis ended in 2009. The Fed recently ended quantitative easing and has started to raise interest rates at a time when the global economy was already slowing. Have you considered what another 50% correction in the stock market would do to your retirement plan? If you're concerned about where this all might be headed and would like to find out about the potential benefits of an active risk management strategy for your portfolio, give me a call at 850-900-5200 and schedule a time for a review of your portfolio from an active risk management perspective.
Make Jamie your first call for a second opinion. Investment advisory services are offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Hey, everybody, the perfect fireplace makes your house a home. How's your fireplace looking? Not too well? Hearth and Patio can help you with that. Actually, Hearth and Patio can help you with anything fire. Give my friends a call at Hearth and Patio. If you need new fireplace upgrade, fireplace repair, you need custom outdoor kitchen, grills, or an amazing fireplace for your backyard. 850-727-4282. That's 850-727-4282. Or you can visit them online at hearthpatiotallahassee.com. Hearth Patio Tallahassee. They keep the home fires burning.
T-Spark Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-SparkConstruction.com. We conquer all creeks. We fix those darn leaks. Call 850-766-1340. T-Spark Enterprises, roofing and construction services. TSparkConstruction.com.
License number CCC 1331204.
Santa, we have got to go. We have never been late. It's time. The sleigh is loaded up and everything. Santa, we have got to go.
Hold on. Just 5 more minutes. Ooh. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did. Happy holidays.
There ain't no school. He's keeping you comfortable.
This is Kyle, Service Manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry bucks to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
I was talking about it before the break that I don't know that the game matters. Now, I care. I want Florida State to win. 10-win seasons matter. I heard Jamie Robinson talking about it yesterday. Like, one of the reasons they're coming back to be brothers, to play together again, to build to something, all of that, while they figure out their NFL futures if they want to leave now or maybe a year from now. And we still have that to talk about as well, whether or not Fabian Lovett comes back, Jared Verse comes back, Jamie Robinson comes back. We don't know. But they were talking about achieving a 10-win season. There have been 24 of those in Florida State history, and they wanted to be the 25th. It is a big deal to get 10 wins. Seems to be that mark of excellence, or at the very least, they are all considered plus seasons if you could win 10 or more games. And I'd like that to be the case. Typically, I look at the 10-win plateau when I'm applying excellence to 10 wins. I'm not applying excellence to a 10th win in a bowl game, but a 10th win in the regular season. So, okay, I still like it. It still counts. We'll still say we won 10 games if it happens, if they beat Oklahoma. Doesn't mean as much to me as if you had won 10 regular season games. That's a very small margin of error to get to 10 wins in a regular season of a 12-game season. So I think that's important. I do think that for fans in the moment, this feels really important. Like it's another step being taken. Tom, I would make the argument that bowl histories tell you otherwise, that you can go and win a big bowl game or win a game in a bowl. You could win it going away. You might win it 37-7, and everybody leaves the stadium chest out, feeling really good about where the program's at. But that game doesn't necessarily translate into anything early the next year. It doesn't really mean anything. It's not a catalyst for anything. You can lose a game like this as well. And if you do, people walk out of that stadium going, I don't know, man. Golly, I thought we were so much better than that. How did we lose this game? It's embarrassing. It's a 6-6 Oklahoma team. They're missing players. They don't seem nearly as invested as we are. How could we lose that game? And to be sure, if that happens, and I don't think it will, but if it happens, there will be a ton of Florida State fans that are furious, pretty pissed, and they'll let that loss in an exhibition game in Orlando kind of cloud what they thought the season was that they just watched. They just will. Fans are moody that way. Subject to the whims of emotion, perhaps you could say. I won't look at it that way at all. I look at this as a wonderful reward for the kids, a wonderful reward for the program that's worked hard to get itself back in position to matter, and it's already achieved that before this game even kicks off.
Yeah, I'd agree. If you just look at the last rise of the program, and we talked about that last segment, that Peach Bowl, Chick-fil-A Bowl in 2010, that was Florida State's 10th win. They beat South Carolina, another team in the SEC. It felt like another step because South Carolina, they were the SEC East champions, I do believe, that year, and they lost to, was it Auburn? I think that's how that went in 2010. At any rate, it felt like this big step, and Jimbo had the post-game presser, the bowl, press conference. We understand where we're going. We understand where we're heading. We're doing it the same. Well, they didn't win 10 games the next year.
No.
In 2011, they didn't win 10 games. So it didn't parlay itself into the immediate return of the Jimbo era. That actually was a dip in 2011, that next season. And then in 2012, that is one of the most uninspired bowl victories you'll ever see over Northern Illinois. That Orange Bowl felt like a chore more than it felt like a reward. And that led into 2013, which was the most dominant season I've ever seen in my life in college football. including 99 wire to wire. That looked different. 2013 looked way, way different. So you're right. It doesn't parlay one into the other, but I would say 16 and 17-year-old kids don't know that. 15-year-old kids don't know that. So when you have more talking points, when you go into a living room or to a high school to visit a kid, and you could say maybe 2 years from now that we've had back-to-back double-digit winning seasons, the coolness factor doesn't have source checking with high school kids the way you would vet something at a collegiate level or professional level when you're trying to take a job. Like, you're going to vet a company very seriously. With kids, it's are you cool or are you not? We saw some of the lingering effects of not being cool and in this recruiting cycle in 2023. So the more talking points you have, the more important it is. But I agree with you. That's not the traditional way to value this game. I'm valuing it from a very different angle.
Yeah, verbiage matters, how you're able to talk to kids and the kind of language you can use to make it sound even better than it is, or maybe even if it's not considered to be good, if you have other talking points to kind of offset that. I get that. I think they've already achieved this year what they need to achieve is my point. I'm not throwing the caveat out there because I think they're going to lose. I don't think they're going to lose. I think they're going to win the game. I think all signs point to them winning the game. Now, it could end up being closer than we think, if only because I do think Dylan Gabriel's a good quarterback, can be. They have enough offensive weaponry that perhaps they exploit a defense that I don't think Florida State's defense is nearly as good as some of the numbers suggest they are. I've been pretty consistent about that this year. So maybe it turns into a high-scoring, close game. I think Florida exposed Florida State quite a bit defensively. And I think that other teams can do that. That's an area we've got to get better. That's a different talking point. But I think Florida State's too invested, cares too much, too locked in, has most of their veterans, if not almost all of them, willing to play hard and practice hard in the build-up to the game. So all do point to Florida State winning the game. I'm not trying to set people up for an easy or a letdown if they lose the game. I'm just pointing out the achievement of this season cannot be altered by a win or a loss here. It doesn't change the way I think about the year one way or the other. If they lose the game, I'm not going to be that upset. People will be pissed at me when I'm like, well, they lost. And if they win the game, I'm not going to be like, woohoo, they won the game. Except for one thing. I like winning more than losing. I always root for my teams to win, period. And we have been owned by Oklahoma. It would be nice to get a damn win against my other squad. As much as I love OU, and for people who don't know, I bring it up often, I've got family members, multiple family members who've graduated from Oklahoma, and family that lived in Oklahoma, had a family farm in Okemah. All of this, okay? I've got heritage there. But I'm tired of losing to Oklahoma, Tom.
Yeah, it's 1 out of 7, one win, 7 tries.
And the one's insignificant from like back in the 60s. Nobody even cares. It's like in any modern football game against Oklahoma, we've lost, including a national championship game that I attended in which we didn't score a single offensive point, and we were the favorites. We also lost an Orange Bowl game to them after an undefeated campaign. I mean, they've hurt some feelings around here.
They have, but
you were in attendance that famed night. Doak Campbell was a great game, but I mean, goodness,
that is the best atmosphere I've ever felt walking into Doak Campbell. When you're talking about build-up, there was no build-up like the Oklahoma game in 2011. That was absurd.
Yeah,
we get there very early for media purposes, or in those days we did, because we got off the air with 3 hours to go before kickoff.
Yeah,
and you walk in. And it was probably 2 hours from kickoff, and we might have stopped by a tailgate for a beer, but it's more than an hour and a half. And that place was just so electric. You got the everything stood up, everything, your hair, everything. You're just like, what is this? The students were there. That was not the case in those days. Students didn't show up early, but they were their whole section was sold out. That was really, really a fun day, except for the results. So I agree, and I'm glad you explained Okemah because we got an email about that during the holidays. What's the significance of the shirt or sweatshirt you were wearing that said Okemah? So to that fine listener out there, your problem is solved.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to hold this to a little bit more of a standard in terms of finishing the job and enjoying it. If they win, It's yet another celebration. It's a reward that they deserve.
Yeah.
And the thing I'd say about the game, just as it plays out briefly, I know they don't have either tackle. I know they don't have their starting running back at Oklahoma. The other advantage I think this defense has is the things they set up, the motions they use, the misdirections they use. It's all very similar to what our defense sees every day in practice. You've got a mobile-ish quarterback. You've got a guy with a good arm, but you've got eye candy. They move left. They move right. They do jets and sweeps and counters and all kinds of stuff, and then they run a play off of the one they set you up with. It's exactly when they go good on good in practice every week. It's exactly what Mike does. So they should be prepared. The one thing I'd say, though, is just because Jared Verse is playing, and I guess Fabian's playing, I'm not sure, but Jamie Robinson is playing. Just because some of these veterans are playing doesn't mean that they're going to be in for the full game. I'm interested to see if there's a pitch count for those guys, or if they are, in fact, if this game's close, going to play start to finish. Because I wouldn't blame them, and I wouldn't blame the coaching staff if they were going to rotate other guys in. There's a bigger goal down the line, and that's next season and what you can accomplish not only in the regular season, but maybe you come home with a banner or two, ACC or otherwise, if you go get some of these guys more experience. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Just because we have more guys active doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to play start to finish in this game.
It is fascinating to see the substitution pattern, the total reps per player, and also what it will reveal about the players who do play, not just the younger players, but those veteran players who we're awaiting an answer from as to whether or not they're going to come back. I've begun to get a lean over these last 7 to 10 days that I'm starting to think, again, opinion, I've been wrong about some of these things. For example, I didn't think it looked good for us the last time you and I did a recording, a show together for the young man out of Penn State who had committed to Penn State, and then ended up flipping to us in the secondary. I didn't think we were going to get that kid. And now you got your safety, your up-and-coming kid from South Florida. That's a big deal. That was a big get because he was wavering and it looked bad. And the delayed decision, all those signs pointed negatively to Florida State. At the end of the day, I think Mike Norvell had a lot to do with winning that young man over. And I got to give Mike credit. I will once again repeat a couple of things. Mike Norvell is the biggest asset we have in recruiting, along with Alex Atkins. Mike has proven himself when impassioned about a player or frustrated about a set of circumstances. When he gets involved, it matters greatly. He's a good recruiting. Listen to every recruit that has said yes to Florida State. They may mention the guy that recruited him, but they also always mention Mike Norvell about how their one-on-ones, that passion was transferred. They could feel it. They believed in it. They understood what he was about when they sat down across from him. That has proven to be a very big asset. So a little insight into that. But then secondarily, I guess for me, when I think about Mike Norvell, Florida State, what they're going to do with the substitution pattern, who plays, who doesn't, those veteran players, if they don't play a lot, Tom, I think they're gone. I think you're going to watch them and you're going to realize those three guys in particular are gone. That they wanted to be there to practice with their brethren, to be a part of it, to help maybe get a 10th win one more time, suit them up. But if they come off the field pretty quickly and the game's relatively close, if it's tied or something, they're going pro. I mean, why would you come off the field if you went all the way to Orlando to participate and play and practice? It's 14-14 early third quarter, 21-10, 21-17, and you take yourself out?
Well,
why even play? I mean, you're either playing to win the game or you're not. So to me, I think that will be an indicator. I've had a feel that maybe those guys are going to opt for the NFL anyhow. But it's also true, and this is where it gets convoluted, so forgive me kind of meandering through all this. It's also true they may be so impassioned about playing one more game together. They've made a decision to go to the NFL, but they're going to play their ass off in this game together because you know what? Anytime you suit it up, week 2, week 9, week 13, doesn't really matter. You could get hurt, but you never go take the field thinking that. So maybe if they've made that decision to go over there and practice and play together one more time to get this 10th win, maybe they're all in and they're still going to leave. I don't know. It's hard, but I think that we've waited up to this point to hear Jamie Robinson talk and to hear Verse talk and to, Fabian Lovett wasn't available to the media. He's been awfully quiet so far since the season ended. I don't know, man. I I get a feeling that the 2 of 3 are going to leave. That's the feeling.
Well, if Jared Verse is the golden one here, because this is the guy that you can't replace, I don't think, without getting a little bit lucky. Because let's be honest, we expected Jared Verse to be a multi-year solution for Jermaine Johnson, not a one and done type player. So the fact that he is even in a position to go right now this year to the NFL draft and get picked and say the top 50, I'll just throw a wider margin out there, the top 50. You got a little lucky there.
Yeah, you did.
Or maybe you got unlucky, depending upon your medium-term vision if you're Mike Norvell. That's hard to get every year in the portal. And if you don't think that if Florida State offers a defensive end out of the portal that nobody's heard of, that other schools aren't going to pay attention now and maybe up the game and up the price, then you're crazy. You're crazy because at this point, the reputation is out there that Florida State knows what the hell they're looking at. They know the type of player that can develop and turn into a top-tier product. And I'm not saying just Tennessee. I'm saying if I'm Georgia or Alabama or Ohio State, I am taking notice what Florida State is doing in the portal. So Jared Verse is the guy to me that if you could get one of them back, it's not even close. That's the guy that I want back. And if there's a deviation here that you're thinking these guys are leaning more towards an exit, that's hurtful. That hurts my feelings specifically in the way of Jared, because I feel like when you're building that jigsaw puzzle to put together a run at a playoff next year, you got to have a guy like Jared Verse.
I can tell you, Tom, and I'll tell everybody this. I've had a pretty good hit rate on, who's coming, who's not coming, all of that. I mean, to say that we've had a good insight and intel with some good sources throughout the latter part of the season on into the off season is an understatement. We've been very fortunate in that way. I know that it changes every day. Amongst the three, it changes every day. So why do I bring that up? Well, as we sit here on a Tuesday, December the 27th, feels like 2 of the 3 are possibly leaving. December 28th, I may get a text that says something very different. It's changing all the time, and I find that fascinating. What it tells you is obviously the culture has been created here that guys don't want to leave. Guys don't want to leave. Come back and talk more about that in a second. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your body is a masterpiece designed to heal itself from within. Learn how to maximize your health by tuning in to Phenomenal Health with me, Dr. Ryan Finn. Saturdays at 2:30. Experience true health today and call Finn Chiropractic at 386-7700.
Car accident? Call 777-7777 for Basic Brooks.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Hey, what's happening, Jeff?
It is always good to see you, Eddie. Had a long day, my man. I was thinking about it. Gordo's was the place to ease the pain, You're frustrated with your job. Your aggravated life's beating you down. Maybe your wife's speaking. You got to get out the door.
You know what? Here at Gordo's, man, we welcome everybody. Disgruntled wives, disgruntled husbands, kids running away from home. We'll even give that kid a job. Send them our way.
Go make some money and eat delicious food at Gordo's. It's perfect.
And have a damn good time doing it.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSHomeLoans.com.
So, when you've got 3 guys that have an opportunity to go to the league in varying, degrees of success in terms of draft slots, one's rumored to maybe be a first rounder, others somewhere between the 3rd and 6th round. And none of them have definitively stated that they're taking it on down the road to pursue their dream when this bowl game ends. it does tell you that while they're undecided and maybe they're gathering all the information, certainly that's what they're doing, gathering the information. And there's a lot to gather here because none of these guys are slotted in a way that's a guarantee. Like you don't see somebody saying Jared Verse is the 15th pick in the draft or is between 12 and 17. No, you see late first, maybe late second, early third. You see a wide swath of predictions when it comes to what number defensive end he is that will go off the draft boards. So it is varied, and it's true of Fabian Lovett, how people see him and where he sits in the draft. And Jamie Robinson, whether he comes back or not, personally, I think Jamie Robinson should go. He can't do anything to improve his draft stock, in my opinion. He's not going to get taller. He's not going to get faster. He's about as big as he's going to get. The play has been good this year. He hasn't done anything to hurt himself. So I don't know why Jamie Robinson would come back. If you want to, Jamie, that's great. But I don't know why he would. That said, the fact that they're wrestling with it, the fact that they're there practicing in Orlando, the fact that they want to play the game, they want one more opportunity to lace them up and wear the garnet and gold and compete together speaks volumes about the culture that we reference all the time as having been totally transformed. And it is one more time to point that out, that is why they have a chance to offset the average recruiting that they're doing in the high school ranks. Because you get a lot of transfer portal players who, upon visiting here and talking with this staff, and moreover, talking with these players, many of whom transferred in themselves, telling them repeatedly, this is a good place to be. He's going to take care of you. These guys care. It's fun to come to practice. The way we operate on a daily basis is successful. You'll get better if you come here. They'll elevate your stock. You can invest in Mike because he'll invest in you. And he walks it like he talks it. That's huge because right now it's the thing that is keeping Florida State in a position to sustain a level of good to excellent that they have now acquired with a 9-win season, hopefully 10-win season. Because otherwise you'd be taking big steps back. Because if you had to wait on the freshmen, and given that, again, there's somewhat of a dearth of elite freshmen coming in, as in guys that could come in and plug and play, then you would take a big step back. But Florida State's been able to, at least certainly segment groups have proven that. You mentioned Jermaine Johnson last segment. I mean, who would have thought you would have been able to offset what felt like a devastating absence, right? Jermaine Johnson is a first-round pick. Jermaine Johnson was our best football player last year. You would have said, oh, well, man, I don't know that they're going to be able to overcome that. And to some degree, they were still hurt by his absence. I mean, as good as Jared Verse was this year, he was not as good as Jermaine Johnson, in my opinion. So, they have been able to sustain and build and move towards that ultimate goal of winning more games because of the transfer portal. The transfer portal wouldn't be so successful for Florida State if they didn't have an existing culture that other transfers are now informing those transfers about.
Yeah, I agree, and that's something that in general it's an axiom of recruiting is that your best recruiter is the current roster that you have. It's not a coach, it's not a bag man, or in this case a collective. It is when you're trying to establish credibility, it's all right, I'm visiting, who do I get to hang out with, who's going to host my visit, and what do they have to say? Because their opinion matters more than most others. Day-to-day life matters greatly. Again, to use the job analogy, when you're taking a job, if you know somebody who works at that company, you're going to sit down and say, hey, can I get you a round or three? Because I really want to know.
Yeah.
There's some days I see you got a long face when we're hanging out on the golf course or whatever. What's that about? And what am I getting myself into? So that's really important. And you're right. If you were to focus on where would Florida State be without the transfer portal, we'd probably be looking for a new coach unless we went all in on the high school ranks. But the thing is now, it's an interesting race over the next 2 or 3 seasons, because if I said to you, just openly asking, what is the average win total in the regular season for Florida State over the next 3 seasons? It's a loaded question. Next year, we feel like double digits is where they're going. But when you try to envision 24 and 2025, That's more about high school recruiting than it is the portal, because the portal is a great variable. The high school recruiting is going to tell you the story on 2024 and 2025. And I don't know. I don't know where this roster is going to be. So that's something that's got to get a whole lot better. I mean, Hakeem Williams is going to be a really good player for us in 2024 and 2025. I think that offensive line is going to be pretty good too. Who the hell's your linebacker? Who's going to be your rush end in 2 years? What if Patrick Payton, you got to manage against the worst case scenario. What if Patrick Payton goes off next year and he decides, I don't need to do anything more? Who the hell is your defensive end moving forward? Who is that guy? So there's a lot of things that they've got to fulfill in terms of the question marks in the medium and the long term. But for right now, the way the portal is developing and the way these guys are communicating to each other year over year, you have to almost pencil in, maybe in ink, that Florida State's going to be a badass in the portal until the rules change.
Yeah, and I think that's why, if people are wondering, there's a lot of presupposing that is done when you get into a debate about the future of recruiting. I've heard a lot of people say, well, Jeff, you don't know. Like, they hear me criticize the high school recruiting. They say, maybe high school recruiting isn't the future, Jeff. Maybe our guy is ahead of the curve. He might realize that, yeah, you need 10 to 15 really solid quality high school kids to come in, but you can offset whatever you're lacking in the transfer portal. So if your staff is not an elite recruiting staff, but better at development, and you're really good as the head coach at developing relationships through the transfer portal and assessing needs, then you can offset that, and there becomes a balance there. And then that's how you do it. May not be how Alabama does it. May not be how Georgia does it. But I would argue that I think it is volatile to try to have to live in the world of transfer portal success the way that we've had to live in the transfer portal success. We've done it. We've accomplished it. He's achieved it. His hit rate is phenomenal. I think you can argue that that is not sustainable. So, and especially because I think rule changes are coming. And I also think the very nature of the portal is going to shift now that the super seniors are gone, and the money's going to change too, how this all works. So I would like to get back to a solid foundation of keeping in-state talent, elite in-state talent, in-state, and winning your fair share of battles against the two chief rivals in Florida and Miami. In the interim, this has been the right way to go about it. In the interim, he's done what he's had to do to make it work. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you and I were up against it and we had to cut corners and do something differently than the way we would like to build a program or build a show or build an audience, we would do it because we value our careers, and you're going to do whatever you have to continue to further that and give yourself a chance to circle back and make right what maybe you had to pass over originally. And I think he's done that. So there's no problem with that. I'm not critical of that. I'm just saying that you're always trying to weigh and balance, the successes he's having in the portal with the lack of success that they're having as a staff, certain members of the staff, in recruiting in state.
Yeah. Well, and if you could cut corners legally the way that they're doing, it's within the rules. Cutting corners sometimes implies nefariousness, which is not the case here.
No.
Then absolutely. The portal has helped them establish credibility as a program, as a staff. That's what the portal has served to do. Now, it could continue to provide the talent to put Florida State over the top year over year. That's going to be a tougher ask. The thing that I'd say is I don't like kicking the can down the road year after year and saying, well, hem and haw. COVID was legitimate, and the legacy of that lasted 2 years in terms of creating recruiting relationships. That's a real thing. And I understand somebody saying you're going to give them another year. I will say I'm very conflicted on this. They finally have the tools to go recruit with. They have the credibility that they couldn't get with the new car smell. The new car smell's fake too. That's not a real thing. That's new, bright, and shiny. A lot of times it turns out to be nothing. Scott Frost and others. I mean, so it can turn out to be completely fraudulent. Florida's hired a bunch of bad guys year over year or term over term, where you're saying, Jim McElwain had a new car smell too. How did that work out for them? Will Muschamp did, and he was a hell of a recruiter, but he still got fired. So the new car smell thing, it does have an impact, but we all know that the sustainability of it is in year 2 or year 3. This has kind of been an inverted development for Florida.
Without question. So, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to see because it's a new thing in this world. We've never seen it before.
Right. And now that they have that, let's see what these guys can do next year, most of them at least.
Well, they also have a new defensive tackle. We'll talk about him next when we start hour number 2. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
To go. We have never been late. It's time. The sleigh is loaded up and everything. Santa, we have got to go.
Hold on. Just 5 more minutes. Ooh. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep. They help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did. Happy holidays.
This is Sister Dot Brown, reminding you to tune in every Sunday morning from 9 to 11 for good gospel music here on 93.3 every Sunday morning. Dot Brown.
Hey, everybody, Greg Tish here, and 'tis the season for coffee. Whether you'd like to order some for yourself or for your family and friends to give them that perfect holiday gift, head over to grassrootscoffee.com. Look at their amazing coffees that they have. You can choose your blend. You can choose the style of roast. They will roast it up the same day and get it mailed out to you. Also, let me recommend one thing. Limited edition, the Christmas blend. This is the perfect coffee to have while opening gifts Christmas morning. This medium dark roast features hints of nuts and cocoa with a jolly touch of citrus. This is available for a limited time only. Also, that coffee drink in your life, why not get them a subscription to where every single month they will have fresh, local Grassroots coffee delivered to them. Visit grassrootscoffee.com and order yours today. Grassroots Coffee, locally owned, locally roasted, locally loved. Grassrootscoffee.com. Make every day a holiday with Grassroots Coffee.
And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And Joseph went up to Bethlehem with Mary, his espoused wife, who was great with child. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. But Mary kept all these things, and pondered them in her heart. This Christmas, may your heart be filled with the faith and wonder of that first Christmas night, now and throughout the new year. Brought to you by Dr. Scott Pliskin at Mahan Animal Clinic on Mahan Drive. Call 402-0557. Whitten Glass on South Monroe. Since 1945. 850-222-5781. And by Sellers on Capitol Circle Northeast. Your first choice in quality, affordability, and customer satisfaction. Call 850-656-8453.
Let's be honest, we all have way too much stuff. Maybe your storage closet is full, your garage is full, or the guest bedroom is a mess. Call Southeast Portable Buildings, 580-6400, or visit them online at southeastportablebuildings.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Good to be with you. Good to be back with you. Hope the holidays have been kind to you. Appreciate you joining us. Did it last hour. I'll mention it this hour. Pre-recorded today, but same day. Topics, same day as the show. So just mere hour 2 before we would ordinarily go on. But we're trying to get geared up to head on down the road to Orlando to cover Florida State and Oklahoma. And on that note, another reminder, we're going to have a big block party, going to be a good time. The Jeff Cameron Show will be live in Orlando tomorrow afternoon from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Tom and myself headed off to the Hairy Buffalo. Should be a good time. Great name for a restaurant bar. That's just awesome. Hairy Buffalo, 129 West Church Street. If you're headed to Orlando tomorrow, or if you're listening and you're already over there, just know we're headed your way. We will be there doing the show live 1 to 3. Afterwards, kind of a hangout, meet and greet, have a few beers, talk some football, talk about life, and enjoy Florida State's successes with each other. That builds into the Battles In block party that they're having. Good to be a part of that. Great to partner with our friends at the Battles In. That is from 4 p.m., so again, an hour after we get off the air, 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. As long as they're open, I think it's going to be a big block party. And they've got live music for you as well. Former FSU players will be there. There's inside and outside bars. The weather, I'm sure, is going to be beautiful. Tyler Reeves going to play. Cole Taylor's going to play. And at the end of the night, I would assume Jake Owen is going to play. So we want to thank everybody who's involved in this. And obviously, that is nice to join forces with the Battles In. So we'll do that. It's an all-day fun time affair tomorrow on Church Street. That is Wednesday, December the 28th and the 29th. We'll have the pregame show for you, and I'll be heading on in with my two boys to watch the football game. Looking forward to that as well. Should be a good time, Florida State, Oklahoma. Now, at the end of the last hour, I mentioned that Florida State had an addition. We went the whole first hour without talking about it because we were looking at big picture stuff, but it actually fed right into this very talking point, which is that the manner with which Florida State is supplementing their roster, and they've needed to. They've had to do it because they've been average in high school recruiting, either because the staff isn't great at recruiting high school, and in particular the state of Florida, also because they were hamstrung originally by not being able to build relationships thanks to COVID. All those things are true, but, I mean, come on, we'll pass that point, but it is a reason, not necessarily an excuse. Bottom line is they've had to have a way to offset those deficiencies, and they've done it really well through the transfer portal. And it continues to be an area that they mine better than most, better than almost all, and they did it again over the weekend. That's right, huge portal pickup. Florida State landed the number one defensive tackle transfer in Braden Fisk, a young man from Western Michigan that was heavily sought after by Notre Dame and Southern Cal. Southern Cal's got a lot of money. Notre Dame's got a lot of money. It's a big damn deal to beat out Notre Dame and Southern Cal in the transfer portal market for the number one defensive tackle available in said portal. That's what Florida State did. That gets me to the larger point that we're having a discussion about, and that is, Tom, in the time we've been away from each other on this little mini holiday, it's hilarious to watch South Carolina openly complain about tampering and Notre Dame complained that Florida State was able to outshine Notre Dame in the NIL game.
Yeah.
You have I sent you a note on that, two separate complaints from two Power 5 schools about Florida State getting in the way of their success. You're damn right. Look at that number. He's circling up there at $211K NIL value for Brandon Fisk. Listen, we all know that Florida State has announced their presence with authority when it comes to the collective game. There's no need to shy away from this. The Battles In is doing the Lord's work. You're seeing amazing transformations to this roster. It's an exciting time. It's also a statement. Now, we'll see if that's sustainable. We'll see where Florida State goes from here. We'll see how much better Florida State gets in recruiting the high school ranks. But for now, to have big-time schools complaining about Florida State publicly is a reason to celebrate. I'm telling you now, man, that's what you want. You want, New York Times article written about BB gun wars. You want things like that. Let's go. Start writing it all, everybody. It's an announcement with authority that we are back, or that we're on the cusp of being back. And isn't that what this is all about? Come on now. That's a good few days for Florida State. Moreover, that acquisition, very necessary. We don't know if Fabian Lovett's coming back. I said last hour, I'm kind of leaning towards he's not. I don't know. He seems to change his mind hourly. It's a tough decision for the young man to make. I get it. But you've got to make sure that you cover your bases, and you got out there and went and got you a huge defensive tackle that had a big, big year. You look at his PFF grades. You look at all that stuff. He is by far and away the guy that you would want to bring in on the defensive front. And I said this, Tom, last week, and I said it the week before. I've been saying it a lot lately because I've turned my attention to trying to compete for championships now. We're We're no longer buried face down in the muck. Now we see the world as it is in beautiful Technicolor. We can go out there and say, we are about to win it all. Well, how do you say that? How do you say we're about to win it all? Well, you can only say that if you get infinitely better on the offensive and defensive lines. And we're doing that on the offensive line. Still got work to do there, but it's better and better and maybe really good next year. And we've got to continue to add big bodies plus players on the defensive line. So this pickup to me matters more than anybody else that you get, whether it's a receiver, running back, even a linebacker. I really love the trenches when we're getting the guys in there and that have played college football and succeeded in college football. You know it translates. You've seen them do it. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, and that's the second for the defensive interior. First of all, you aged yourself with Technicolor there. I barely know myself what Technicolor is. Only because it was at the end of like movies that VHS.
Correct. Yeah.
Dad, what's Technicolor? He's like, oh, well, Technicolor. It's like the FM band being invented or something along those lines.
I should have referenced AM radio, yeah.
Yeah. So when you combine the fact that you've got to transfer from Miami and Darrell Jackson, and you get Braden Fisk, Fabian Lovett would be a nice retention. It would be very nice to have him back. But I think it's bordering on luxury at this point. It's bordering on luxury because you got guys like Josh Farmer, and we'll see what Malcolm Ray does next year, and then also that bevy of young talent that you really like in Lyons and Thomas and Ayobami Tafasi. So you're set up there. Fabian Lovett would add that kind of depth that championship teams have, and I'm talking big-time playoff championship teams have in the defensive interior. Would be really nice to get him back. But this was a take no matter what. This was a guy you go out and get no matter what. And I'm sure, I'm confident that Braden Fisk and part of his decision-making process was, even though he's from the Midwest, when he went to South Bend, he said, this is a dump of a town. You can't pay me enough. You can't pay me enough. Tax-free, whatever write-off money that you have, you can't pay me enough to go to this dump of a town. You know what? Because I'm in the Midwest, I want to get out of the Midwest.
I'm tired of the cold.
And I want to compete for a playoff. I want to compete for a conference championship. Last I checked, Notre Dame can't compete for a conference championship. I'd like to play in a conference championship game. So get me to warmer weather, a better program, and with a chance to play for a championship. And I'm going to Florida State.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. His choices being Notre Dame, Southern Cal, and Florida State. I just can't reiterate it enough. I mean, Southern Cal is a warm weather option.
Yeah, that's the bigger one. That's the one that raises my eyebrows more than Notre Dame, because they are invested in the fight.
Oh, big time. USC's going nowhere. They're on, and what I mean is they're not going away. That is a program that will be omnipresent in the playoff chase annually, now that they've decided as a university, along with their collectives, to be all in on their head coach, their quarterback, and everything else that they have working for them in Hollywood. They've got massive brands that have bought into what they're doing. So, yeah, they're going to be around for a long time to come, and he had an opportunity. They pursued him, and at the end of the day, he came to Florida State. I think all things being equal. Now, LA is not for everybody, by the way. I understand that. So some kids might go out there and say, this is too much. I don't like this. I wouldn't have been one of them. I would have happily gone to LA, but that's just an aside. Probably would have been problematic. But yeah, you're nodding your head. Yeah. And you don't want me out in LA. That's a daily distraction. We got issues. But I would just say this. What it tells me isn't that we outbid USC. Maybe we did. I don't know what the number was. And I haven't asked. I just am happy we got them. It tells me that all things being equal, let's say Florida State's in the ballpark, and they would have had to have been in the ballpark. I don't care how much you don't want to go to LA. If one's offering you $500,000 and another's offering you $100,000, you're going to take the $500,000 if you got any sense to you whatsoever, unless you're independently wealthy. So to me, this tells me once again, he was impressed with Mike Norvell. He was very impressed with the culture. He was very impressed. He talked about Hagens. That's awesome, because who doesn't love Odell? But he also brought up Mike Norvell and Mike Norvell's passion. I'm telling you, this guy's our greatest asset when it comes to recruiting this portal. Yeah. People buy in quickly to where he's at emotionally and mentally and where this program's headed. So Bravo. Does Mike have weaknesses? Yes. I don't want you to get the wrong idea, guys, out there listening. Every time I praise him, that I'm like somehow walking around with blinders on, that I don't see that there are areas that he has to get better in. There are. I'm just merely going to highlight in the areas in where it is succeeding greatly for Florida State, especially after a good season and after an acquisition. And listen, offensively, Florida State's going to have one of the better offenses in the country next year. Mike is in charge of that offense and calls plays on game days. And then we dominate in the transfer portal. That's largely because of Mike Norvell.
Yeah, and that's the thing that, I'd rather approach it this way than say, I think this guy needs to be fired or replaced. But if Mike can find another Mike Norvell to be an assistant on his coaching staff and go hit the trail, I mean, what would that do to elevate what we are as a high school recruiting entity? Because when kids get here, or when he goes to living rooms or high schools to check off those limited visits that he can have and interactions that he can have with players, they all love it. And Alex Atkins is doing a very similar job.
Yes.
But I think if Mike could clone himself.
Oh, Lord, my dog. Go ahead.
It's the inspiration. Dogs holler at inspiration. And so if Mike could clone himself and be an assistant on this staff, he would be far and away the number one recruiter on the staff. So that's the key. And I'm going to go solo here because Jeff has just left the screen. But the number one thing that I want to see moving forward for this staff, to you podcast listeners and radio listeners out there, is how do they get better in high school recruiting? Is it more so for the reason that they now have something to sell, which is a winning product on the football field for the first time in forever? Or is it because they have to make personnel changes? And that's what, to me, 2023 is going to be about. As you look at that next class that's upcoming, is the lead storyline, I hear you're unmuted, is the lead storyline more about, look at this, they actually have a product for the first time and the transfer portal helped them get to that proof of concept stage?
Yeah, I think so.
Or is it that they have to cut bait on a couple of guys and that is what pushes Florida State to that next level to where they could be in the top dozen, top 10, top 8 in terms of high school recruiting classes? I don't know that you need to be in this day and age with the portal top 3 at all times. I think at this point that might be a market inefficiency when you're talking about how much NIL money you have to dole out to even be in the top 3. But you can't be 20th. You can't be 18th. That can't cut it anymore.
Yeah, it's such a conundrum because, Tom, Alabama and Georgia, where you want to go, Ohio State, soon to be Southern Cal. I know they didn't even win the Pac-12 this year, but you understand. I think Texas is on the cusp of coming up like this. We'll see. We've been saying that forever and a day. But
he's a game day problem, is Sark. But
yeah, he is. But they had a very successful run here in this at the end of the season in terms of getting players. Yeah. But okay, so I guess here's what I'd say. If you have created a culture that is sustainable because it is rooted in the things that are about merit and about truth and about the way that you relate to kids and forge relationships and the way they relate to each other and buy into a program and the way you build together, all of the things that great cultures produce and are described as. If you have that, then you are less inclined to have to deal with the year-end over year-end problem of paying, repaying, paying again. Roster retention is real for everybody, but you don't see those elite programs building this way. They build primarily through high school recruiting.
Yes, but I would say that's the legacy of a system that,
that is changing.
That doesn't exist anymore. Because if you're upper class laden as a Georgia or Ohio State, NIL didn't exist when these kids were coming out of high school. So
that is correct.
The one thing I'd say, I agree with you. It's almost like, let's just say hypothetically, Coach K had to cheat his ass off to get Duke to where it is.
Hypothetically, of course.
Hypothetically speaking. Once he got there, he didn't have to cheat his ass off anymore.
That's correct.
Because he is Duke.
It recruits itself, yes.
It recruits itself at some point because you see the greater goal of making more than you could ever in NIL and NFL money. NFL is greater than NIL. So let me go there, increase my chances for the big payday rather than this menial money that I'll go from 1 4 or 5 loss program to another. My argument is, though, that in order for Florida State at present And by at present, I mean the next 2 or 3 recruiting cycles, to be top 3, they'd have to spend so much damn money. It would cause culture issues, and you just don't have the brand reputation at this point to go there. Because unless you're Alabama or Georgia, who has established themselves, Ohio State, as a factory, you don't have that payoff yet. We're not there yet. So I think that sweet spot is probably, in terms of the amount of money you have to invest from NIL, and then your reputation is probably 7 to 12, depending upon a given year.
But I will guarantee, I'll say this now, and we'll go back and revisit it. I could be really wrong. I think that the year-to-year changes, as to your point of emphasis, when you're a program on the come, is an interesting follow. Alabama is Alabama. It recruits itself. You just got done saying it. That's accurate. Georgia's trying to win back-to-back national championships. They are recruiting themselves. It's just, that's a beacon. If you're a good player, an elite player, you want to go play there because you can win championships. That still matters to kids too, I think. Like going somewhere where I can win a ring is a big deal. It still matters. All right, so until you're one of those places, I hear you, you got to kind of figure it out. You got to balance it, supplement it. You got to do all those things until you become that kind of recognizable brand. But I also think that for Florida State to get to that point to where they could recruit on their successes, the 9-3 season that we just had, yes, you had to be way more reliant. As you move further away from that and you sustain success, you're going to become more reliant on the high school ranks. And I believe there will be a greater point of emphasis collectively by Mike Norvell and his staff, and perhaps the independent collectives that will somehow, through telepathy, understand that Mike wants to recruit better in high school next year. There will be a bit greater point of emphasis on those kids, especially the elite players in the state of Florida. Can't just let Miami and Florida gobble those kids up. It can't happen. You'll get surpassed. I don't care how successful you are in the portal. You will get lapped.
Yeah, and Florida's in trouble right now too. The late momentum, or lack thereof, that they had in terms of every key recruiting battle, it seems like, and then the attrition of the guys leaving their program. I mean, how is it that they have one of the best offensive lines in the country? Nobody wants to be a part of it anymore. Like, that's really strange. The quarterback situation with Mertz, that's an interesting situation that's developing there. Miami is here to stay, I think, in terms of garnering talent over the next 2 to 3 years, more than Florida is. Life while it'll run out of money, or they'll stop caring to spend in a couple of years. But for right now, they seem to be more of a fixture. Billy's got some issues right now in Gainesville.
I think Billy's a good coach, though, and I do think he'll create the culture the way that Mike did here, and so that will lure kids in. They still ended up with a good class, and I do think that they'll end up being more successful over time because I like him more as a coach.
Oh, sure. No doubt.
Yeah. But also, well, okay, it will be fascinating. There are so many, I think, variations of this debate. I just think because every time we talk about, do you invest more in high school recruiting moving forward now that you've gotten on your own 2 feet and you can provide for yourself? Or do you embrace the more modern balance that we're seeing with the transfer portal married to the high school ranks and filling needs for the immediacy to offset any growth delays or anything that you may have within your own roster? Or do you do what Miami did if you've got a billionaire who's willing to spend it and just shower kids with money the way Texas A&M did and the way Miami did? It's fascinating because I think for Cristobal, this year, obviously, that is a home run. Those kids signed. That is an elite recruiting class. They got a ton of good players. But how good can those players be right now? Because they got to be. They got to be, because you said it earlier, and you're right. This all dries up. And I'm not talking about the money, but the popularity and the buzz. Let them go out there and suck again next year. Again. And then the infighting starts with who's getting paid and who's not getting paid. And by the way, am I recruiting over that kid that I just brought in for $700,000? Am I going to bring in another kid at his same position next year because that kid couldn't hit the field fast enough and doesn't look like he's ready to for another year? Do I recruit over him right now and get this kid? And then what do I got to pay him? And how soon does this become a toxic locker room all over again? It's just a fascinating debate. And there are so many variations of it. Every time I think I believe one thing, something else happens to make me think, maybe that's not true. The truth is, ultimately, you have to do better in the high school ranks. We agree on that. To what degree is probably the debate. To what degree is probably the overall debate.
Yeah, I think while the rules are the way they are currently, I think this method that they're looping in is fine. I think it's absolutely fine. It's just the problem. I wonder what the first problem they'll face will be. Will it be that market forces dictate that transfers that are higher profile are going to be more expensive next year, and so therefore we're in for a tussle? Or is it going to be that the rules change first? That's going to be what I wonder. How does Florida State run into competition? Is it because the market forces say, screw you? Now Alabama realizes that they've got to dip in, or Dabo comes off his pulpit and decides that they need to inject some actual money into the transfer portal and not build the program as much in God's name, image, and likeness. Like, what's that going to be? Because to me, I think it's really valuable to have a kid who has no more freebie transfers left be on your campus. There is so much less sweat equity you have to put into roster retention as a coach when it comes to motivation. And you got to check in on a kid every 10 freaking minutes. I almost said something different, because you're worried that the 18-year-old who's a true freshman is pissed that he's not on the field immediately, Sam McCall. So how many Sam McCalls can you stand before you're using valuable resources and time on that part of the equation rather than trying to win a damn football game? That's why I like the portal, beyond the fact that the film is more reliable too.
Yeah, they're hamstrung. Once they're here, that's it. You're not going anywhere, pal.
Right.
Not without serious repercussions. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Hey, what's happening, Jeff?
It is always good to see you, Eddie. Had a long day, my man. I was thinking about it. Gordo's was the place to ease the pain, You're frustrated with your job. Your aggravated life's beating you down. Maybe your wife's speaking. Got to get out the door.
You know what? Here at Gordo's, man, we welcome everybody. Disgruntled wives, disgruntled husbands, kids running away from home. We'll even give that kid a job. Send them our way.
Go make some money and eat delicious food at Gordo's. It's perfect.
And have a damn good time doing it.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Hey, Greg Tish here along with
Matty Rowe.
And you can listen to us Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Real Talk 93.3. Matt, we give away a couple things each week.
Just a few.
We've got the Florida Farm Bureau Insurance Wheel of Food. We have Give Me a Second, where we play a second of a song, and you guess that song. And we also play FLA or Nay. We have a lot of fun Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on
The Greg Tish Show.
Think that's enough?
We can talk about our feelings.
There's a lot.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com. Something interesting happened in the league, Tom. Two things I want to talk about with the National Football League from over the weekend and again last night. But if you go back a long ways to pretty early in the Jeff Cameron Show canon of shows, if you will, you'll note that I have had a sustained belief, for the most part, that I think there have been some caveats, but a pretty sustained belief that if you see evidence that a team has outright quit on their coach at any point, that there's no coming back from it, and that at that point, you're probably going to need to move on. If you have options, you're going to need to move on. And it happened in the National Football League over the weekend. Nathaniel Hackett got fired in year one in Denver. Year one. That is a stunning turn of events, and I think that we've seen for some time that's where a lot of this is headed. In a weird way, Florida State was ahead of its time when they fired Willie Taggart early. It led to other coaches being fired early that same year, by the way. And now I don't think people are all up in arms if a coach gets fired after 2.5 years anymore. Like, if there's evidence that something's a train wreck,
People are like, that ain't going to get better. He never won them over. It's not going to work. Nathaniel Hackett watched his team against that Rams team give up a touchdown on points, I should say, on every single drive of the game, except for the last drive when they took a knee. That was the only time that Denver got a stop I say Denver got a stop. The only time Denver didn't give up points was the last drive when they took a knee. And I thought to myself when I saw that final score, 51-13 or whatever it was, I thought, I wonder if they'll fire him. I wonder if they'll sit there in upper management and do what I do and think, well, it's rather impossible to give up points on every single drive of the game unless you're not trying to get stops, unless you're just going through the motions. These are NFL football players. And oh, by the way, Denver's defense has been great all year long. And all of a sudden they can't get a stop to save their life? Come on now. You knew damn well you were watching a team completely quit on their coach. Completely give it up. Just say, that's it, that's all, we're done here. I'm not buying it. You're full of it. This is awful. I'm not going to try real hard here. Let's just get me to the offseason so I can go play golf. And they did it. They fired his ass. They did. They adhered to the Jeff Cameron rule, which is if you catch a coach having been completely quit on, there ain't no coming back. You got to let it ride. You got to get that guy up out of here. And they did. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about. And then the second part was you and I in a moment. We'll talk about Derwin's hit. He was ejected in last night's Chargers win against the hapless Colts, whose offense, my goodness gracious. But that said, how about that? 1 year, fired.
Yeah, I think it's hard to know why they quit, would be the way I posit it. You can't get rid of Russell Wilson. You've tied the next 15 years of your franchise in terms of the financial implications to Russell Wilson, because when this experiment is over, you're going to have to rebuild for a couple of years at minimum. I wonder if he shut down on Russell because Russell sucks or can't be told what time it is and what he needs to do, because he's got a reputation for that behind the scenes, which is you can't tell him anything. And the team sees that they're not going anywhere, and this guy has completely, overturned the locker room. We've got all kinds of discord, and screw it. What the hell am I here for? So that's me wondering aloud, is this a direct quit on the head coach? Is it an indirect quit on the head coach because the quarterback is such a large issue that who even gives a damn? Or is it both? And they can't get rid of both. Who wants Russell Wilson right now? Who the hell wants that guy? So I wonder what the inner workings are. But what I will say, objectively speaking, is I've seen a lot of bad clock management and a lot of game management issues in my time covering college football and the pros. I don't know at the NFL level I've ever seen something quite like week 1 with Seattle and Denver. I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like that, as poorly as Hackett managed that situation. And he's regarded as a really, really smart NFL mind as well, which is what makes it even more baffling.
It's really weird. I remember listening to a podcast, and there was a former NFL player who was freshly out of the league saying, man, I really like Paul Hackett. I mean, a lot of guys do. But you know what? It's a classic moment where some people are coordinators and not head coaches, and it feels like he's not a head coach because he obviously lost this team. He never got Russell Wilson. Now, Russell is a mercurial and difficult person to deal with and probably as fake as they come and all of those things. I think the other thing that spelled doom here for Nathaniel is that is a new ownership group. That is the Walton group that came in there, the Walmart heirs and all that. I think that they just decided, okay, well, we just bought this team. I'm not going to sit around and watch this ass suck for the next 3 years. We're done. Let's start fresh here. And that's the thing. If you're not their guy, or if you are, if you were hired under weird circumstances, even if it were by them, but they felt hurried because they had just gotten in there, okay, you can see how it can happen. I do think they're in trouble, though, because I think that Russell Wilson has continued to reveal himself at these press conferences as borderline unstable. And I know people would say, well, what do you mean? He seems buttoned up. And no, that's all an act, guys. He's a mess. That dude's that doesn't feel real, does it? It doesn't feel real.
No, where was he in Dallas when Kennedy was I feel like there's an underlying like, what in the hell is going on with this guy?
Yeah,
it is strange. I won't play that video clip again of him, doing the subway read with the Batman score, but I don't think that's too far from the truth. That there's some things he says, and maybe people who wanted to befriend Russell Wilson, he just moved into Denver. The neighbors, they go over and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm in Russell Wilson's house," and then within a half an hour they go, "Hon, we gotta go.
We gotta go. This guy's nuts."
Yeah. He loves Madame Tussauds a little too much. I don't know what's going on here. That's just a weird guy that's borderline dangerous, and I don't mean that with a pun for his nickname. Like, just legitimately, something's up with that dude, and Denver doesn't like it, whatever that is.
There's a weird disconnect. Well, players can see through fake, so that's the problem you have too. Is like you've got a disgruntled group of players. The coach is not connecting. They're losing games. They can't score. This guy's making $200 million. He's fake as they come. I can't relate to him. Every week I have to listen to this clown after he goes, for 12 points.
So that reminds me, and this is where he showed his true colors a little bit. I think you probably know where I'm going. Super Bowl 2 years ago down in Tampa, he was awarded, was the Walter Payton Man of the Year? I forget when he was awarded.
Yeah, it was something big, yeah.
And remember him sitting in the owner's suite, the owner's suite, and he had this scowl on his face.
He was disgusted
that he wasn't the guy on the field, I think, or that he wasn't in Tom Brady's situation where Tom has basically the run of the mill. Whatever it is, he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. And I don't know any other public appearance in Russell Wilson's history where a camera has caught him with that particular look on his face. In fact, some would argue, I think proponents of Russell, that he's incapable of looking like that. But once I saw that in the Super Bowl, I said, and there it is. That is in him, and I'll bet you that's who the hell that guy is 90% of the damn time when the cameras aren't on.
Yeah, it was strange. It was really strange. Derwin got kicked out of last night's game. He also had a spectacular interception, and you're reminded of the athleticism. I told the boys last night, Tom, after that interception, we were watching the game, in which he recovered. He made a mistake on that play. He recovers beautifully, makes the catch, gets the foot and the knee down. I said, do you guys remember you stood right behind him at not Urban Air, but whatever the other jump house is that used to be on Pensacola Street? I can't ever remember the name of that place, but that place that's no longer there. And we went over there that first week when Derwin was here at Florida State. And, everybody knew he was a 5-star kid. Everybody knew he was a beast. Everybody knew he was a superstar athlete and all those things. He was right in front of us. And I watched him jump almost to hit his head on the roof of that building and hammer on the goal. And I was like, please don't get hurt. Why are you here? I didn't say that to him, but I was thinking it. No, Derwin, don't do this. But the level of athleticism was so extreme. Like everybody else who fancies themselves a decent athlete loves to be able to do the thing where you bounce, you grab the ball, you're 12 feet in the air, hammering it. But as you get older, you're like, I'm probably going to shatter my knees when I come down here. I don't want to do it. Even the best young athletes didn't come close to what Derwin was doing. He did some 360 between his legs. He was in the air for an hour. It was the silliest thing ever. And all I remember, and I said that to the kids, I said, that was the guy. That was the guy that I told you is a freak and would be playing in the league someday, knock on wood. Well, there it was. All right, now to the hit. You guys know how I am about these hits. I believe that 99% of the time, there is no such thing as targeting. There's not, at least as it pertains to intent, certainly, and also just the nature of the game with angles and speed and violence. That's why you wear helmets, kids. That's why you wear helmets, because they're going to hit. But I know what they're trying to legislate out of the game. So I did a 180 on this thing, Tom. I started out by yelling at the TV, that's not targeting, because the slow motion replay shows he is leading with the shoulder. However, the more I looked at it, the more I realized, yeah, that is the exact hit they're trying to remove from the game. And here's what he could have done. And I'm finally going to side on the league side here of safety. He did have enough time to try to hit lower.
Ooh.
So where you would argue that he does not launch, and he doesn't, and where he does not lead with the crown of his helmet, because Troy Aikman was wrong on that. He did not lead with the crown of his helmet. He did hit above the neck. And if you're going to try to avoid contact above the shoulders, you can hold a player responsible in positions where you note that he had a whole target. I mean, he had targets. He could have hit his ribs, could have hit his waist. If you go in with the intent to wrap and to hammer, okay, so like to try to break ribs, like you could still be a mean SOB and hit somebody with the intent to intimidate or hurt or, whatever that might be. But in that situation, your goal has to be that I'm going to hit this massive target from the knee to the upper chest. If he goes in with that intent, he's not thrown out of the game. And I think that's what they're trying to get guys to think about. So that's fair.
All right. So 2 things here. Number 1, I think I'm putting on your hat, your other hat.
Yeah.
Which is he has coverage responsibilities that he's passing off as the ball's being thrown. There's a guy that's coming at him that he's leaving to go make a play on the ball. So he might not have his natural amount of steps that he's out of control is what I'm saying, because he's got a responsibility that he's trying to account for, and that's not a 3rd and 10. That is a short yard line to gain. So he's got to get there now. And so if he doesn't have the time to size it up and get calculated, it's because he's going 100 miles an hour trying to make a play at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. So that would be the reason I think that perhaps he is not hitting shoulder to hip. It's because he's got to get there now, and however I get there is how I'm going to get there. So that's where I don't blame him. Secondly, correct, the principal point of contact, while a little bit high, on the player's end, on the defender's end, is not the crown of the helmet, it's the shoulder. So I wouldn't have penalized it. Hell, I would not have ejected him. I think that's crazy. The NFL never ejects anybody. You're going to get rid of him for that?
I may have penalized him and not ejected him.
They don't eject anybody for anything. How is that going to rise to the level of ejection?
Because I think they believe that there was intent, and I don't. See, that's where I would disagree with them. I think they believe there was intent there. I also think they believe he had time, and that's where I can
F that. If he had no other responsibility, and it's almost like a kickoff return where it's I'm on you, you're on me, and that's where he goes 100%. But the context of the play is he has a coverage responsibility that he's leaving to go make a play. So it's not like it's a one-on-one situation. It's I need to go make a play now. And it's a short yardage. Again,
but I don't think the receiver did the thing that I always loathe, which is, okay, I'm catching a pass and I'm angling here, or it's thrown poorly and I have to duck, and now I've already got a guy who's decided to hit my hip, but now I'm at hip level. Yeah. I don't think that happened. I think he was upright and he still got hit in the head.
Yeah. So here's the thing. This is where I would come to the other side and make an argument. Is if you want to handle this issue, you've got to rebrand what it is you're flagging. Because to me, I don't think it's about defending or protecting a receiver. It's about protecting the aggressor here. I think you've got to flip it on its head.
Well, Derwin hurt himself on that play. You saw he was concussed.
Correct, because he did drop his helmet. That's the problem that I have with it is he did drop his helmet. That's probably what Troy saw. Troy's hit upside the head so many times. It's remarkable he can even do what he does for 20-odd years now.
He's actually good at it, I think.
I agree. And he's blunt when he needs to be, which I appreciate. So many guys dance around what they want to say.
He's also a pro player. He's not one of these guys who's always calling for people to get kicked out. He'll always say, like, even when quarterbacks get drilled, he's like, well, that seems legal to me.
It's targeting implies intent as a call. Targeting implies malice on the part of the defender.
Yes.
I agree with you. I don't think it's malice 90% of the time. Mm-hmm. Bowling Green had a guy who had malicious intent yesterday and wasn't even thrown out for targeting because the quarterbacks were getting hit late, and he said, enough of this nonsense. Matthew Thomas on Brad Kaya.
Right.
Oh, there was intent there, and there should have been.
Yeah.
But you got to go. So that's understandable. In most of these situations, there is no intent. So to me, I think you've got to message the emphasis that we're trying to protect you from paralyzing yourself, defender. We are trying to protect you. We're not worried about the concussion as much as we're worried about you putting yourself in danger. The moment you lower your helmet to a place that I don't care if that's the principal point of contact, you are putting your body in danger. So we're going to change the name from targeting to something else. dangerous hit, something akin to that. And if you put yourself in danger, you got to go because you don't know how to properly execute tackle. I think that's the way to mess with this.
You are on the right path here, because I would also say put the point of emphasis on form tackling, as in your goal whenever you're trying to tackle is to wrap.
Yeah.
If your goal is to wrap, then you can't make that hit, because you could if the rule is I have to wrap, like in rugby. That is the rule. In rugby, you can't just go flying in with your head. You have to wrap. So if they did that, Joe Paterno was nuts and he allowed for child rape at Penn State. But he once said, take the helmets off. You won't have to worry about any of this. But his point is true. I mean, if I know that I'm going to hit your head with my head on the angle that I'm on, I'm going to do everything in my power to get to where I can wrap you and roll you over or slam you down. I don't want your head to hit my head. So you got to, because I don't think there is intent most of the time. Agreed. I would put the point of emphasis is we want to wrap and we want to avoid anything high. And then I would also say that we're allowed to look at this thing. If the guy changes his trajectory based on a poorly thrown ball or an angle, then we're like, you know what? We're just playing football out here. That's why we have helmets on.
Well, and I think that's the other emphasis. And I know that we're running a little short on time, but these officials most times is like there are incompetent officials. There's no doubt. There are dudes who suck at their job or too old and too slow to be in position to make the call, because it's all about being in position. It's 90% of officiating. But a lot of times they are told from the higher ups.
Yes, you got to flag this. Yes.
This is what you've got to do. So sometimes they're the messenger that we're killing, and the real problem is at the league office, not actually on the field.
Completely agree on that. And that is true. And I've talked to officials who've said that. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
To go. We have never been late. It's time. The sleigh is loaded up and everything. Santa, we have got to go.
Hold on. Just 5 more minutes. Ooh. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep. They help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did. Happy holidays.
This is Sister Dot Brown, reminding you to tune in every Sunday morning from 9 to 11 for good gospel music here on 93.3 every Sunday morning. Dot Brown.
Hey, everybody, Greg Tish here, and 'tis the season for coffee. Whether you'd like to order some for yourself or for your family and friends to give them that perfect holiday gift, head over to grassrootscoffee.com. Look at their amazing coffees that they have. You can choose your blend. You can choose the style of roast. They will roast it up the same day and get it mailed out to you. Also, let me recommend one thing. Limited edition, the Christmas blend. This is the perfect coffee to have while opening gifts Christmas morning. This medium dark roast features hints of nuts and cocoa with a jolly touch of citrus. This is available for a limited time only. Also, that coffee drink in your life, why not get them a subscription to where every single month they will have fresh, local grassroots coffee delivered to them. Visit grassrootscoffee.com and order yours today. Grassroots Coffee, locally owned, locally roasted, locally loved. Grassrootscoffee.com. Make every day a holiday with Grassroots Coffee.
And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And Joseph went up to Bethlehem with Mary, his espoused wife, who was great with child. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. But Mary kept all these things, and pondered them in her heart. This Christmas, may your heart be filled with the faith and wonder of that first Christmas night, now and throughout the new year. Brought to you by Dr. Scott Pliskin at Mahan Animal Clinic on Mahan Drive. Call 402-0557. Whitten Glass on South Monroe since 1945. 850-222-5781. And by Sellers on Capitol Circle Northeast. Your first choice in quality, affordability, and customer satisfaction. Call 850-656-8453.
Let's be honest, we all have way too much stuff. Maybe your storage closet is full, your garage is full, or the guest bedroom is a mess. Call Southeast Portable Buildings, 580-6400, or visit them online at southeastportablebuildings.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Wrapping it up, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Good times, lots of talk, and not much time left in this show. Our friends at Tub Talk, Pinch a Penny. Fire away, Tommy.
It's time for Tub Talk, brought to you by Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas. Buy yourself the hot tub you've always wanted at the price you've always wanted from Pinch a Penny on Greer Street. Now, it's live to the tub.
Think of all those poor people that did not get their hot tub this holiday season and how frustrated they are as we sit here in our glorious hot tub experience. If you didn't get a hot tub and you really wanted one, yell at those closest to you about how they failed you and race to Pinch a Penny and get you a new hot tub and say, see, I'll rectify this situation. You can get a 2-person hot tub, you can get a big old family hot tub, and everything in between. Priced right, delivered to your house, make it happen, Pinch a Penny. 50 different hot tubs on the floor for you to take a look at. There's no way you can't find the one that you want. That is Tub Talk for today. It's brief. It's also to mention that while in the tub, it's a good time to enjoy the Tallulah products that you and I know and love. They are everywhere. They abound. It is CBD. It is Delta 7, 8, and 9. It is mushrooms. It is THC. It is floating away in the pod. It is all the goodness of a relaxed holiday season. That is Tallulah. And by the way, this is true. No matter where I go in town, I've discovered there's a Tallulah. There's one on the corner. There's another one over there on that corner. There's another one in Midtown. Now I'm in Thomasville Road, and I just came across a Tallulah. Next thing you know, I'm at the old Sodo, and that's a Tallulah. Then I'm getting a kava drink over here off of Monroe. And now the next thing I know, I'm over here in Bannerman Square, and there's some more Tallulah. It's everywhere. You really have no excuses.
I think in 2023, you might be the calmest version of yourself on the golf course if you implement some of these tools when you play.
I watched Ernie Els swing a club from an overhead view, like behind and overhead, so you can see how much turn there is or where his hands are at the top of the backswing. And Tom, I saved the video because from this point forward, I'm going to watch it before every round of golf we play together. It is the simplest way to realize it's not nearly as complicated as your brain is making it out to be. That big, beautiful man barely turns a lick. He raises his hands to the slot, he stops, and he progresses and then opens towards target. That's all it is. It is here. It's not long. It is right here, and it is back down.
It's like your guy from Japan on Instagram. That guy's ridiculous.
That guy makes everything look glorious, doesn't he? I could watch every one of his drives.
It's like watching somebody, I don't fish, but like with the perfect cast. You're like,
you're like, look at that. I know. It's glorious. We will be in Orlando. Tomorrow's show, 1 to 3, live at the Hairy Buffalo on Church Street. Afterwards, we will be joined by our friends, not just the Warchant staff. We'll be there for the meet and greet, good times, at the Battle's End as well. They will be hosting a big block party. So all day, basically, you want to be around your fellow Noles. We will be there tomorrow, 129 West Church Street for the Jeff Cameron Show. Warchant staff meet and greet, Battle's End block party, live music all the way to midnight. That's the place to be. Do not miss it. Tommy, I will see you tomorrow. Safe travels to all of you. We will talk to you tomorrow from Orlando. Going to be a good time. Can't wait.
Feels so soon.
Peace.